It's well known by now that Sega first tried to give Sonic his grand leap into 3D on the now forgotten console, the Sega Saturn. I mean, they did try, looking at the unreleased demo, Sonic X-Treme, but how much credit can you really give Sega when they made a conscious decision to produce a game with a goddamn fisheye lens? Did they even make this game in good faith? Look, here's the issue with not only Sonic X-Treme, but the Sega Saturn in a nutshell. This console was basically an incorrect prediction towards the future of the gaming industry, and while it was definitely capable of 3D-like graphics, it truly excelled the most at further improving 2D gaming. So it goes without saying that this game had an extremely hellish development cycle, and it goes without saying because it was canceled. This game doesn't exist. In fact, this game had such a crazy development cycle that the employees surrounding the project had literally started to become ill. Developer Chris Sen would literally continue to work on this game despite puking constantly and a nurse saying that he had 6 months to live. Take note of this, it will become relevant later. Anyways, yeah, the resources that were put into Sonic X-Treme would ultimately funnel into a separate game and franchise, Nights into Dreams, the Sega Saturn's flagship title. I told you that this console failed, right? There was Sonic R, a racing game that became a cult classic among people who enjoy masochism, and Sonic 3D Blast. This game was also released on the Sega Genesis. I mentioned that the Saturn failed, right? I've actually already covered Sonic 3D Blast. It's an okay game, but I wouldn't say it was a masterpiece either. I feel like it had some smart ideas, but ultimately it wasn't really a 3D experience. Oh, but it's isometric. Right, and almond milk is a dairy product. Grow the f up. The fans awaited a true 3D Sonic game. Probably, I don't know, it's just a line that YouTubers say. I wasn't even alive at the time. And well, a true 3D Sonic experience would arrive with the Sega Dreamcast in 1998 in Japan and 1999 in North America. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the Sonic Adventure games in this video. For one, I'd like to leave the door open in case I want to do an actual review of those games down the road. And for two, I don't feel like people sending squad cars after me and my family. I just don't. Sonic Adventure, like it or hate it, is a cult classic. It reviewed well, and there's a handful of Sonic fans that still love it to this very day. I don't. Like, look, the game is fine. I would never go so far as to say that Sonic Adventure was bad by any means, but I do think it's a sloppy and flawed product at a very minimum. There were some cute ideas here. For instance, instead of one long campaign, you would play 6 individual mini stories, half of which I would define as almost playable. Sonic was fun, Tails was more Sonic, and Knuckles just wasn't for me. Amy was super slow, E120 Gamma was just kind of boring, and Big actually made me stop playing the game entirely. Not a joke. Look, for the purposes of this video, I'll say what I did like about this game. The controls were pretty damn good for Sonic, and there was some good old cheesy charm. Too bad I'm lactose intolerant. Sonic Adventure did something special though that X-Treme wouldn't have been able to do, and that Sonic R or 3D Blast definitely didn't do. It ultimately showed that this format had massive potential and could only grow from here. So it's no surprise that Sonic Adventure 2 would follow in 2001, and for a lot of Sonic fans, it ended up being one of the best games of the series to this very day. It's no masterpiece, sure, but I personally feel Sonic Adventure 2 is one of the best Sonic games ever released, and maybe even Sega products altogether. For one, it really cut down on some of the extra fat that Sonic Adventure 1 had. Instead of having 6 different gameplay styles, there were 3, meaning that the gameplay that was present was able to be a lot more refined. And even those styles were done over 2 storylines instead of, 6. It just feels to me that Sonic Adventure 2 arrived with more of a purpose, more of a coherent vision, that could appeal to just about everybody except for haters. The tragic part about Sonic Adventure 2 was how it ultimately was restricted to the Sega Dreamcast initially, which again was a pretty major failure of a console. Sonic Adventure 2 is essentially Sega's swan song for their own consoles, and was the final major Sega title to be released on the platform. I said major.